MFs, welcome back to Hustle Like You Broke, where today we are joined by not 3 but 4 of my favorite MFs on the planet. Miss Christine Dallas.
Hello, hello.
Mr. Kyle Hamilton.
Keto Thursdays.
My brother Banks.
What's happening?
With the warbly drink. I hear the ice. I love it. And for the first time ever, hopefully not the last, might become an honorary host, depending on how he does today. This is a little audition. He doesn't know this yet. The one and only Ian Simon.
And I'm nervous, and I'm officially nervous. I didn't realize I had to perform.
Excellent. Already caught you off balance. That's exactly what we're going for here.
Heavy breathing.
Now, I have to say, just to start off for today, that people ask me frequently, what is my fascination with the word motherfucker? And why do I call everybody an MF? And I've done freaking college lectures talking about the word motherfucker. I am so passionate about this word. And again, in the company before us today, I feel like today is the day where I truly embrace the privilege and I share with my friends, the people I love, and all of our listeners out there, my fascination. I can't fully explain, but I truly believe that the word motherfucker is like the embodiment of all things. It's like shalom and aloha, and it captures the gamut of human emotion. There's happy, motherfucker. There's angry, motherfucker. There's surprise, motherfucker. And it just keeps going. And I embrace the word. When we're on the road, when we're on tour, it is like my favorite thing to walk down the hall and shout out, MF! And you can hear from doors near and far, up and down, people shouting back, MF, MF, MF. It's like the spirit of camaraderie, of just brotherhood and sisterhood and love and emotion and just everything that is the reason that I love being on the road and touring and spending time with this incredible group of motherfuckers. So, again, right here with us today, 4 of my favorites. And I couldn't be more enthusiastic about it. So, Ian, thank you for being with us. We appreciate you. And just happy to have you with us. Ian Simon from Strangeloop Studios. You are the youngest guest we've had by far, I believe, as you are only in your 20s. Is that right?
I am recently 30.
You
Motherfucker.
So it's all downhill from here, baby.
Well, fuck. I mean, there goes the whole podcast. We may as well just wrap now. Some bullshit. How did we not know this? Do we know this? Did I know this?
I haven't updated my bio yet. I'm still just riding that 20s bio, the Wonderkind bio, trying to extend that for as long as possible.
Blatantly.
You have a bio? Like you're like some important kind of motherfucker? Like you have a bio? What the fuck are you talking about, a bio?
I had to write one for this thing. I had to get my pen and paper out and scratch something together.
So you lied
for
on
you
it.
guys.
You
Yeah.
lied.
Full
You said
compliments.
you intentionally updated it and left in the part about being in your 20s. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. What's the next question, Matt? Let's
I'm just playing. Still youthful, but owning a major video company, touring, creating content for some of the biggest artists in the world, The Weeknd, Kendrick, many more. Stepping into the gaming space. I definitely want to ask you a little bit about that today. But Brother Banks, I know you stepped away for a second. Have you returned to us yet?
I am back.
Okay. Because really, Ian, the first question that I want to ask you today, and I think it might be the most important. So we're on tour. I'm pretty sure it's Europe because the bus had low clearance. It must have been a double decker. And you, me, Chris, Kyle, I don't think Dallas was with us yet.
No.
The first time you see Brother Banks step onto the bus in that blue terry cloth robe and those super nice leather slippers, like what are your thoughts?
So I I think that is one of the like purest, heartiest laughs I've had in my entire touring career. I've never seen that level of comfort, confidence, and keep in mind,
Arrogance. That was pure arrogance.
I mean, Chris, when did we do our first run together on Kendrick? I mean, this was after at least 3-4 years of touring together, and I hadn't seen this ensemble.
I'm crying right
It
now.
was a new era, man. I mean, you know,
Motherfucker needed a smoking jacket too. With that, he was out the chain.
hey, man, I was trying to be comfortable.
It was all of us together. That's like the beauty, the magic of that moment.
I'm glad that memory will give you humor
Lifetime
for
memory.
years to come.
It was aspirational, honestly. It was like this is what it looks like when someone's figured it out on tour. Like, I always knew you had it locked in from a technical perspective. I knew you were a good guy. I knew your reputation preceded you. But what I didn't know was that you had just hacked your way to touring properly, light years ahead of the rest of us.
I'm living in the future, man.
It was eye-opening.
I'm crying right now. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Oh, this is amazing. Banks, I love you. I love Ian. Thank you. That's, I mean, we could keep talking about this if you'd like. I just think that it's brilliant.
I feel confident we'll come back to it at multiple points throughout this conversation.
It'll be referenced again.
I certainly hope so. Banks, you might need a refill. I think I'm going to have to go get my own breakfast cocktail today.
As you should.
Or three.
No fruit.
Oh, I hear it. I'm actually feeling like a Dr. McGillicuddy's. You guys familiar with Dr. McGillicuddy's?
I'm not.
No, please inform us.
It's kind of become a thing among a few of my friends where, you know, we're all stuck in, you know, fucking Groundhog Day, and, you know, we're taking our dogs for long walks just to get out of the fucking house every evening and shit. And of course you want to take a cocktail with you. But you can't take several. I mean, you could, but it would get heavy, right? But Dr. McGillicuddy's is a liqueur that comes in nips. It comes in full-size bottles too, and I admittedly have both in the house. But they are just, I'm just going to do a full-on advertisement here. This shit is fucking delicious. I mean, the root beer tastes like root beer. The grape tastes like fucking grape drink. Like, you are drinking fucking, it's more like purple drink. But it's basically the same thing. I mean, the cherry, the butterscotch, I don't really fuck with the mint. That's kind of like a creme de menthe, a little true to form. But this shit, you just suck a bunch of them back as you're taking your walk, and it's just a beautiful thing. And that's where my mind went. I think I'm going to grab one or several as soon as I shut the fuck up. Anywho, and thanks nobody for stopping me. Jesus, what friends you guys are.
I was curious. I was writing down all the different flavors.
I had no idea what you were talking about. I was like, what on earth is this?
There are no mango, so Dallas wouldn't fully understand.
Colored drinks? What are we talking about here?
Wait a minute. Colored drink. What y'all talking about?
I'm not trying to do like blue drinks. I don't need to.
Trying to put purple left on here. Okay. You know where we at with it in 2020. Jesus.
Natural colored drinks in my life.
Anywho, moving on. I guess now that was my cue. So, Ian, backing up just a step, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell our listeners who you are. Obviously, we all, you know, have a lot of love for you, but they should too. They will too, I'm sure. You know, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I was thinking about the fact that I think this is the longest I've been in one place since I started touring at the end of 2012. Right after I graduated from college. I had like a brief stint at a gaming company that was irrelevant until like the current phase of the smashing together of the worlds of music and gaming, but pretty much went straight into video creation and touring at the end of 2012 with Canadian DJs Zed's Dead. And something I didn't publicize at the fact was that I had only touched video software like 2 weeks before that tour started. Like I met a buddy who did 3D animation, who has since become my co-founder and closest friend, Dave Wexler.
Excuse me. Sounds like co-conspirator in a crime perpetrated on I don't know how many people. That's what it sounds like to me. But
I
please.
mean, it was like a late night that he was on the road with Skrillex, which 2012 was like big moment for him, big come up of EDM in general, video screens starting to get loaded in at every festival, people not really knowing what to do with them. And he had a very much like on the fly live video approach that was, I think, more musical than what a lot of people were doing. And he had a bunch of content. Zed's Dead hit him up to do a tour. He had conflicting dates with Skrillex, and I literally I can picture his face being like, "You'll be fine, you'll figure it out," and like fumbling me through a session in the Resolume software, which, you know, to his credit, much more important to be musical. I think when learning that stuff, like the content was dumped in my lap. It was just up to me to play it in time to the music and make it look like they were talking to one another. But yeah, no, it was absolutely a scheme we perpetuated that I like. I fully remember borrowing his tour stories and like laughing about them as if, oh yes, this, you know, this time when Skrillex had to wear the motion capture suit, like, you know, as if I'd been there, when this was completely a secondhand story that I was trotting out to make it sound like I'd done this once before. But
That really
also,
happened?
yeah, no, 100%. I will say though, the first like show I did with Zed's Dead, like I did a couple club, like the Avalon in Hollywood, where Dave came with me and kind of showed me the ropes. But the first show I did was Webster Hall with Zed's Dead, and I remember being really nervous, going out front to get some fresh air like 20 minutes before we went on, and overhearing two people who were like in the smoking area like huddled together going like, you think we should take the second tab now, or wait half an hour? And I had this moment of being like, nobody gives a shit. Like, as long as I play some trippy stuff in the next hour and a half, everyone will be fine. And like a massive amount of pressure just lifted off my shoulders. And it was like, as long as you make some trippy stuff happen in these EDM venues, as long as it's part of a gestalt experience that people are enjoying, no one's like, you know, looking over your shoulder to make sure that there were no other VJs in the building, you know. Um, and it was on the back of that tour that I toured with them for like throughout 2013 too, and was on the road with them when I got the call about Kendrick, which was how I met you fine folks. Um, and it was a connection through Flying Lotus, who was a LA electronic producer who we'd worked with for since the inception of Dave and I working together, and he had done some production for Kendrick, and Kendrick was about to go open for Kanye on the road, and I was just excited that this was a tour where I wouldn't have to push. Like I didn't think it was possible. They were like, you'll just show up like at sound check, plug in your computer, test your test card, do the show, and that's it. And I was just waiting for like the load in specs and you know what was under my purview other than doing the show. And that was like my first white glove experience. And I literally didn't think this was a thing that you could just go up and there would be like a cable waiting for you to plug in and like do the show. Um, and yeah, and that was the start of touring with Kendrick and meeting you fine folk. Um, and then, you know, as our studio transitioned to making content for many more acts than we could actually go out and run on the road. And a lot of our favorite collaborators were people who we'd go out for rehearsal, we'd time code the whole thing, and the actual video operation was, you know, triggered from somewhere on the lighting board, and it was all done beforehand. So that was really how we turned it from just a couple guys touring into a business and into what it is now.
And I love that you made the reference to being a white glove motherfucker, because I do love
That's epic.
talking and making poking a little fun at certain white glove motherfuckers that might also be.
Yeah, I've heard the podcast. I know the tenor, and it's fun. I was thinking about it beforehand because I think I got that white glove just like maybe a little too early. Like I did 2 tours of like pushing cases, and
But you
then
push cases though. See, white glove is you have to earn your gloves. They don't just show up. So you push cases. I get it. I get it.
I
Embrace the
did.
gloves. Embrace them.
No, I mean I most certainly did. but and
You
I
did
was
the
glad
hundred
like
faster.
yeah, even having the experience of building a video wall for like a 7-week tour
Oh, so you're
is
the guy who now takes the audio, but the audio budget now. Okay.
Well, we know that's the truth. I mean, we had that conversation with whoever was Mickey Kerbishley about. Was it
Hmm.
Mickey? Who was it
Yes, it
about?
was.
It's
Mr.
definitely
Kirby
Yeah,
Mickey.
said
yeah.
video trumps all. I remember when I went to a show, matter of fact, at EDM, and the video director had now the front of house audio position. I was like, yo, and audio was way in the back of the cut in the front of house position. I was like, yo, this is asinine.
See, I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense, just like from literally a technical and practical perspective. Like, I mean, it wasn't long before I heard the term vidiot on the road and realized that I was grappling with a legacy of semi-competent video professionals that came before me, uh, and was like battling the reputation that they'd put in everyone's head. But one of the benefits of what we do is that we can have confidence monitors. We can be snuck away in the back. We can be upstage, and if it's not always detrimental to the show. Um, but I think a massive part of it was driven by EDM. There's just not a whole lot going on stage, and you started loaded. Like I think that the production almost ran out ahead of the video content, where there were all these screens loaded in, and then we'd go to a show and see just like a rotating logo for an hour just on these massive 60-foot video walls, and you're like, what are you doing? These are giant canvases for someone to build a visual identity or tell a story, and I think the industry kind of had to catch up to that.
Well, clearly you are one of the more educated and intelligent motherfuckers to be doing this. I do see in this fancy bio that you provided us that you went to Columbia University. Certainly smarter than me. I know that much. And you did reference that you overheard people taking drugs, which made you feel calm, as opposed to taking drugs in order to feel calm, which is a novel approach. I hadn't considered just overhearing others as opposed to simply doing them.
Yeah, they're not mutually exclusive.
But you also use the word gestalt. Like, who the fuck uses that? What the fuck does that even mean?
uh just sort of yeah, what was the context I used it in again?
I don't even know. What the fuck does that mean?
See, he's the Tony Starks of the video industry. He hit you with that Iron Man shit. Gestalt. That's some complete Robert Downey Jr. shit. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, it is I mean, something that I think we all do together, right? We're all creating a certain aura around the show that we're producing. We're all working collaboratively together to make something bigger than any of the individual elements, more than the sum of its parts. And that's what I look at as the gestalt of the show.
I think that's beautiful. Are you wearing a terry cloth robe right now by chance?
I may have placed an order as soon as we got off that tour with Banks for my own monogrammed terry cloth robe.
Don't forget your eucalyptus case to freshen up your terry cloth robe. I don't know if you remember that conversation.
Wait, what the fuck?
You have to wash your terry cloth robe in a eucalyptus encased covering so that you can constantly breathe fresh eucalyptus air while you have your robe on.
So you saying your robe is
being
infused
serious
with
too.
eucalyptus?
Yeah, eucalyptus, spearmint, jasmine, whatever fragrance, floats your boat.
See, this is so discouraging. You think you have it all figured out. You think you've learned from the best, and then you realize you've only scratched the surface.
Yeah, I'm. My mind is just blown right now. Is this a thing? Are you being serious, Banks? Why are you holding out on us? I mean, share this epic wisdom that you apparently are holding back.
We had this conversation on the bus after we talked about the road for like 2 hours.
I think I took
we
some
were
of
still
the drugs
reeling.
we were
Yeah.
talking about, and yeah, like this is still like a moment of like, wow.
You know how you go to a nice hotel and you can order, your pillow from the pillow menu, what type of scent you want? They also provide when you order the pillow, like if you want to buy it and take it home or whatever, you can order an enclosure. It's like a pillowcase almost, like a zipped up pillowcase. And inside you line it with like a fragrance and you put it in the dryer and heat it up. And basically that scent infuses into whatever's inside that case.
This is clearly the most informative episode we have done on this podcast. Like I never could have imagined the quality of wisdom that is being passed around right now. My
You must
mind.
stay in the A party hotel, Chris. Because to order a pillow service, yes, I need a goose down. Actually, I need a pillow with no I don't want any to get stuck. No fragrance or
No fragrance.
no goose poking me in the head. Pillows. It's crazy. No feather pillow. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No
I'm all
feathers.
over the place. Or foam pillows. What are you doing? What
It's all good.
hotel are you staying at?
I
The
mean,
Ritz?
we've seen the
5
photo.
seasons, not the 4 to 5 seasons. Where are you at?
I know. Obviously
we
not
saw
where
the
we
photo
are.
where Chris Lee posed with the Obamas while the rest of us were God knows where. Okay, we know the level he's
Ah,
operating on.
Oh, Ian.
We can only
The
be so
truth
close,
comes
Oh,
out.
you know,
Ian.
after you were entreated to that luxury and the rest of us were left out.
You guys were on your way home. Meanwhile, we had to carry the brunt.
Had to. Oh my God.
Wait a
Carry the
second. Are you
brunt.
telling me that Ian was there and intentionally left out?
I was sent home before the
Sent
opportunity.
home. Sent home.
Yes. We had done 2 shows. We were in London. We played, what was it, Capital, Summertime, whatever. Then we
Wireless,
flew.
right?
No, it was Capital. I think it was Capital,
Uh-huh.
Summertime, whatever it was, in Hyde Park. And then we flew to New Orleans to do Essence. And then the next day, just a select few of us went to the White House and everybody else went home. But we had to carry the load of the entire crew amongst the skeleton crew.
Mhm.
So
just
you
leave
had
it
to
at that.
take the white gloves off that day?
I did. I had to wear many hats.
so you wore tan gloves, basically.
Yes, my gloves were soiled.
But see, this does dovetail with I think the point you're starting to make, Matt, which is, there's a certain reputation that in popular culture about roadies or about people building the shows that, doesn't that maybe it's not the most intellectual group of people. Certainly not been my experience. I mean, despite being chastised for using the word gestalt now and then, I certainly have never lacked for compelling conversation and with the people that I've toured with over the years, and certainly you can't turn your nose up at people who rub shoulders with the Obamas. So, I think it's an interesting misconception that somehow there's amidst the debauchery that might happen on tour, there's still quite a bit of you make friends and relationships that you carry with you the rest of your life, and some of them are on this call.
That's beautiful. That's just beautiful. This motherfucker got me crying.
So that's an emotional use of MF.
Exactly. I don't even know where to go from here. I've completely lost my train of thought. But I mean, you did allude to the fact that we refer to our program as celebrating the working class heroes. So obviously, we think there is something more substantial to the lifestyle of the roadies, as they are often looked down upon otherwise in society. I don't even know what to say though. I mean,
Mm.
I'm picturing the robe, I'm picturing the gloves, I'm picturing this gestalt, whatever the fuck that is, and and I'm feeling a little bit as a loss for thought. So tell us more about the about video technology. Let's actually try and be a little more educational about this and make use of that giant motherfucking brain that you have, Ian. And I mean, clearly, the picture that I think we should probably post on the website in our Instagram of the lighting and the audio fighting with the video guy in the background eating glue is not truly a representation of you, though you did allude to your predecessors might actually fit that description, that the bar had not been set especially high when you were able to step in and basically program a high level show, 2 weeks into a not yet storied career, and manage to pull it off and continue to be here today. And again, now that I'm looking at this fancy bio and I see, I mean, people that I love like Anderson.Paak, like SZA, like Pharrell, who others on this podcast also work with. I see
Yep.
David Gilmour of Pink Floyd. That's obviously a pretty cool thing, and perhaps speaks to the LSD experience you're referring to. Um, but I mean, we talk a lot about how the evolution of technology in the business. That's what once was a business where you started because you were a merch guy and you were like, hey, can you just plug in these lights, and you went from there. Nowadays it takes almost a STEM background. We have a podcast coming up with a young woman from Eighth Day where she talks about her background in STEM. And perhaps you can speak a little more to the intellect of the expanding video technology at play here. And you talked about the rise of EDM, but please tell us more.
Yeah, no, I think um, myself and our company were definitely beneficiaries of timing and the development of the tech for video. I think one of the things we used to see all the time was just the actual equipment wasn't sophisticated enough to do really compelling work. It was a lot of stuff that like I remember going to shows and seeing the like as if the video was just completely unrelated to what was going on musically. Like someone would set up and be obsessed with whatever they were patching together and making these sometimes very cool visually abstract analog patterns, but that was so time consuming that they couldn't focus on actually making it related to the music. Um, and then so I think one of the big changes was on the content production side of the barrier to entry for 3D animation and video editing starting to be less restricted to people with professional rigs and more accessible to people who could kind of fuck around and create really exciting visuals. Being able to pull content off the internet and manipulate it, and then programs like Resolume, where this is like technically, I remember showing up to a gig and someone asked me like where's your media server. It's like relatively early in my career. Someone's like, where's your media server? And I was like, my what? And they're like, the video. Like, where's your media server? I was like, I have a laptop. And they looked at me and they're like, yeah, that's your media server. And I was like, well, I don't, no one calls it that in the normal world. I just have a software program and then I send the video out. Like, I think that transition from needing to have some bespoke gear that was, $8,000 or that really propelled the content creation side forward. And I think it happened at the same time that, like I was saying, video walls started becoming just a rote part of production where they were loaded in and people had to figure out what to do with them because it was just part of building a big stage was putting big video walls in there. And I think the other piece of the puzzle is projection mapping. There were a couple like landmark shows like Amon Tobin's ISAM show and a couple other big shows that used really um, incredible projection mapping, and that certainly takes some math and figuring out um, how to make these compelling half physical, half like mind bending effects with projecting onto custom built set pieces. Like, I cannot tell you how many people hit us up asking for a projection mapping show, not even having any idea what actual projection mapping was. They heard that it was cool. They'd seen a cool show that had cool video, and they were like, "Yeah, I want a projection mapping show." And then you start digging into what they actually want. It's like, no, you just have some ideas for content. Like, this can be done with an upstage LED wall. But there were a couple like this all happened in the last 10, 15 years, that the tech became more accessible, a little more affordable. And I think we were just lucky in the fact that we were creatives diving into that space when it was becoming easier for other people to get into it, and when it was becoming more a part of just traditional productions.
So, Ian, do you consider yourself a pioneer as well in this industry?
I can't take the credit for that. Like, I've done tours I'm super super proud of, and I do think my co-founder, Dave, who his moniker was Strangeloop. Like, he and I met making music together, like making beats in LA. Like, we met through Fly Low and people on the Brainfeeder label in LA. And I think his approach was pioneering, because he was pulling clips off the internet and like fucking them up uh in Premiere or After Effects, and then putting them into a software like Resolume. And people were like, uh, it was head and shoulders above what a lot of people were doing. He's like really performing the video at a time when often it was more of a um it wasn't as performative, it wasn't as like on the fly. And that was like how I was taught to do it, and I think that's certainly was beneficial with Kendrick. Like, when he wanted to vamp the end of a section for 8 bars longer, you could just get like, it was already improvisatory. Like, we were already kind of following along with what he was doing, so it helped to not have it be time coded at that point, like early, like 2013. um and I think the flexibility of using a program like Resolume that way, as opposed to being locked into time code or being controlled by the lighting board, which means you're only giving it so much attention. I think that was relatively new, but I can only take so much credit for that. Like, I was taught how to do this after a lot of those things were worked out.
Does anybody else feel like we should have had this David character on the show instead?
How many of y'all have even met him?
We met him.
I know you have, Chris.
Yeah.
I honestly have no idea.
I'm not sure you have, Matt. I'm pretty sure you haven't, Kyle or
I
Christine.
definitely have not met him.
Yeah.
Clearly, you've been hiding from us all this credit that you've been taking for yourself. I'm feeling like deprived or like screwed over or something. I don't know, MF. Maybe you're not right to be a partner on this thing. Like, I'm really disappointed in you right now.
Listen, all right, I don't want to err too far on the side of modesty. All right, I was the guy going out to all these rehearsals with all the artists we're talking about, doing actually cutting the stuff to time code, working with the lighting designers and the stage designers. And um, I think I just think we can only take so much credit for reaping the benefits of video becoming a more important part of, like, exactly what Kyle was saying. Like, we benefited from video becoming more important and doing exciting stuff in that space. And
In my space.
literally in Kyle's space. um but
Okay,
but yeah.
I'll let you off the hook then. You're still welcome to hang out with us.
All
I love you, MF. Okay. So obviously, as you said, video technology has really come a long way over the last 10 years, and it's especially topical right now in the age of one, live streaming, which is of course another side
Yep.
of video technology, and then also video gaming. I mean, this Travis Scott Fortnite game is like the biggest news in a long time. And when Marshmello did it, he did his thing, and it was big news, and it was cool. But somehow I feel like this one was different. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just because I've got a 10-year-old son who's obsessed with Fortnite. But I mean, I saw it, and the music was cool, the gaming component was cool, but the coolest thing to me was that my son and all of his friends were talking about it for days, before, during, and after. And then coming out of it, you got whatever it was last week, 2 weeks ago, that Dylan Francis and Deadmau5 and Steve Aoki did. And it's clearly becoming a thing. So tell us a little about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Travis one definitely felt different. I think part of that was because Marshmello, you've already got huge demographic overlap with Fortnite. Um, like he was already streaming himself playing Fortnite. I think it was more of a collision of worlds this time. Even though there was, I know Travis has streamed playing Fortnite before too, but the hype around it, and then who else saw it? Did Matt? Were you the only one who saw it, or Christine, Chris, Kyle? Yeah.
I saw it for sure.
I
Yeah,
read
yeah,
about it. I didn't see
absolutely.
it.
It's almost hard for me to be objective because I thought it was a pretty, like, I was looking at it from a technical perspective too, and I thought it was a pretty impressive feat just from uh like the art direction first of all, and the um it was like a lot of the little details, like everything was perfectly synced. Even though they had however many million people in these video game instances simultaneously, like everything, it didn't look choppy. It looked like it had been art directed really well, so that wherever you were in the game, you could see it from an interesting perspective. And a lot of the pitfalls of doing good music related art in video games, I think they did an incredible job of navigating around. And then, of course, like I can only imagine the revenue around people buying the Travis Scott skin, which like
Mm-hmm.
it's just people are going to be playing Fortnite for the next several years wearing the Travis Scott skin and making him do all the goofy emotes and dances that Fortnite has become so famous for. Um, and though I know it was a big undertaking for Epic Games, the creator of Fortnite, like they spent months on it, and I think I know for at least a portion of that their workforce was distributed because of COVID, and they pulled it together. But yeah, I think, Matt, you and I have talked about it. I think eyes were already turned towards the gaming space just because, from a financial standpoint, the numbers there, I was shocked by just how much money and revenue is in gaming. It's something like the music industry is around a 20-21 billion dollar industry annually, and gaming's like 130. It just dwarfs it. So I think people see dollar signs in addition to creative opportunities.
Absolutely. So when are we going to work on that? Like, let's talk
Yeah.
about it right now. Like, what the fuck? Why aren't
Well,
we doing
now you
it
got to do something
right
different, right? Like now you can't
now? Oh,
just do
100%.
another Fortnite concert. Like
100%.
got to think of the
Always
next
the next
next
thing.
new thing.
So what is the next thing? Why don't you tell us what the next thing is?
Well, I really think that a lot of it is going to have to do with people not just digitizing themselves into avatars. I think people need to open their eyes creatively to the space. Like imagine like the way I keep framing it. Say I'd be interested in everyone's, like this may apply more to stage designers, lighting designers, people who are looking at the visual components of a stage. But when people are consuming their streams through a digital medium, like what's everything you were told you couldn't do in the physical space? Like I remember we tried to pitch a stage design where there were going to be little tiny like low wattage lasers on the back of drones. Stupid idea. Impossible idea. Like for a million reasons. Lasers, you need really tight controls over like where they're scanning, what the safety areas are. You can't really have them running just like on battery on the back of drones. Like drone control is still in a pretty rudimentary phase. But in a digital setting, like all of these ideas are for the taking, and nothing's off the table. Like water, right? No one likes to tour with water features as part of their touring rig. I've seen so many like stage designs shot down because no one wants to figure out how to have a water element as part of the stage design.
That's because it's a
But
pain in the ass. I mean, if you've ever, I did that actually with the chain smokers, and the whole room became like a fucking cloud. It was like, it was a nightmare. But anyway, keep going.
what you
Sorry.
mean from like Steam?
Yes. I mean, all of the water mixed with the sweat and the heat in the room. there was condensation on every surface for days, in the venue, on the equipment, on the people. It was steamy, like steamy can be, but I'm going in the wrong direction here.
It's a little
So
moist, huh?
back to the toilet. I think what was that? Say that again, motherfucker.
Moist.
Why'd you have to get so close to the mic when you said it?
It was a little moist.
Moist.
You know, there's only so moist you can make a real world production, but in the virtual realm, the limit does not exist to how moist you can make a production. That's the real exciting frontier here.
Like a Ready Player One kind of world, huh?
I think Fortnite is probably the what was it called in Ready Player One? The Oasis.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Fortnite is probably the closest to whatever that is right now, where you enter a world and it's your complete entertainment destination. I think they debuted like the new season of Punked on like a video screen within the Fortnite game. Like that I think is the consolidation, like especially in our current ecosystem where people are confined to getting their entertainment through screens. Finding these ecosystems where people already are gathering together, and I think people just need to focus more on unlocking the creative opportunities. Like, what can you do in the digital space that you've wanted to do in the live space and weren't able to? There's probably some interesting things from an audio perspective too, like the amount of control you have over people when you're not grappling with the realities of physical space, right? Like, I don't know what you guys are doing, Kyle, when you're.
I can have infinite PA now.
I'm saying you don't need
instead
to
of a-
blast noise, whatever you guys are doing when I walk into the venue and there's just
we
white noise
blasting
pouring.
Okay.
Those are some fighting words right there. Now,
No,
did
I'm not
you
being. It's
blast
literal
noise?
noise.
No. Did you motherfucker stand down for a second? Kyle motherfucker, did this other motherfucker just suggest that what you do is blast noise?
He said that white noise is wearing him out, and it actually is pink noise, not white noise. And yes, we have to balance out our PA just like when you guys do your color balancing with your video walls and blind everybody or give everybody a seizure.
And we can see your face everywhere as you use as a test print.
That is the hallmark of one of my video shows, is if my visage is hovering above whoever's on stage. That's my pink noise.
Motherfucker.
But I do think it's touring professionals who should be thinking about what are the possibilities, like what are the advantages of doing stuff in digital space. As long as we're stuck here, like what are the audio things you want to be doing in physical space that are just either a pain or physically impossible that you can do when you have the level of control you do with people in front of a screen and having just a few physical variables taken out of the equation.
I mean, Ian, I think you're really just kind of broaching the topic of really what is the next wave here. You're talking about, extended reality, XR, VR, AR, all combined into one. You're talking about the ability to do a virtual show remotely. You're also talking about how you can augment, replace, accentuate things that are happening in the physical space. You're talking about, this next wave where we say, and I'm not sure how you make this easier and more cost effective, but we're talking about how you can take less people out. Not we, but we keep hearing lately, especially in this coronacation, that when we come back, artists may want to carry less on the road, that they're going to want to figure out how to streamline and tour more efficiently. And, the way we come back, XR makes that possible. Augmented reality could offer the opportunity to augment the lighting, the video, the audio, the other components of what's happening in the physical space, and still give people more of a show instead of less. Am I crazy?
No, I think you're definitely. I would definitely agree with all that. There's our our D3 programmer Charles Dabazius, who was on Kendrick with
And how do you
us
say his
for
last name? Dapazius? I always wondered
it's
about that.
it's it's my best guess. I mean, I just put it on the record, so let's go with it. Dabazius, but he, incredibly gifted D3 programmer, but also just he's worked at a high level in television and broadcast production too, and he was the first to really put me on, like, long before, like like in 2018, long before we were actually restricted to watching our content on screens. He was talking about how in broadcast the future is going to be like when you've got more people watching the stream than in the room. I remember sitting with managers of acts that we had at the Grammys who were watching the stage and having to, like, redirect them, like, no, look at the confidence monitor, like, look at the program feed. This is what multiple millions of people are seeing, not the 15,000 people in the room.
Right.
And I think that that's um, an entry point for how can you augment video once you don't actually have to put stuff in physical space. How can you use intelligent, like, camera tracking and overlay a completely value added level of creativity to a video feed and to a live performance. um and I think that that technology is already there. It's just about um getting it in the hands of the right creatives and having it. I think, the costs need to come down so that enough people can experiment with it, so that it's not just the people using it who are trying to force it to replicate something that's already existed. Like, that's going to be key to the actual next wave of interesting use of the technology, is people getting their hands on it who don't have a reference point like us for years of concert touring and have no preconceptions of what a show could look like. But then I think you also hit upon something that's like, all right, when people are in the room, how do you use these technologies to make their experience better too? And that's just as exciting an arena, because I do think, I think we're all um, probably under the opinion that as great as these alternatives are to seeing live shows, they're never going to be a full replacement for that experience of being in the same room with other people watching this stuff, and that experience is always going to have something special to it. And making the experience special for the people in the room is shouldn't be an afterthought. Should be a priority.
Well, I have an idea.
Let's
Let's
hear it.
not tell anybody about this. Let's never say this in a public setting. Let's make sure we do not podcast this or anything like that so we can keep it for ourselves. And let's do it. Okay, too late.
All right,
But
yeah, let's offline. Let's go.
but seriously, no, I am 1,000% on board for all of that. I do think that's the next wave in, modern technology. I think the last point you made, obviously, I say that for sake of self-preservation because, my career is largely dependent on our ability to get back on the road and do incredible things. But I mean, I think that
Diversify.
but exactly in the spirit of diversity, in the spirit of just being ahead of the curve and doing what's next, I think that taking that technology to that next level, more so for the people that are in the room, but also so that you can sell additional tickets, have additional revenue, find other ways to monetize the experience and tap into more of that $130 billion gaming industry or whatever the fuck in order to take the concert industry to that next level. Like that should absolutely will, and I'm sure be part of the next wave of rolling out. I know there are artists that are talking about this. Ian, we've worked with a couple of clients that are thinking along those lines currently. Um, Doing festivals for them in LA as we have, and they are taking those elsewhere across the globe. And I do think that will be part of the next thing. So again, keeping that under wraps and trusting no one will repeat this so that we can be out ahead of it. Anybody else want to change topics? Talk a little more about a terry cloth robe or something, what have you. Banks, please jump in.
I'm spitballing about ideas now. Now we can't talk about them, so now I'm just like,
I have a question, if I can. Ian, I was just curious. We did talk about your youth. Do you find it's more common folks in your field, like all your peers, are as equally as young as you, or do you find are there older folks in the business that you can look up to? But I just wonder sometimes, like growing up, your generation was definitely playing games at a much earlier time than our generation was. And if you think that impacted you or made any decision towards your career
Yeah,
choice.
it's so interesting. I was thinking about that when we were talking about it earlier, because I mean, I even feel like I was like the kids younger than me who are now experimenting with video stuff and doing stuff like a massive differentiation in this space is like whether you're waiting for your stuff to render, which is the conventional way to create animated video content. You sort of set up the scene, you determine where the camera goes, you put all the elements in it, you light it, you texture it, and then you sit and wait. And the video game industry has driven forward this um, technology about rendering stuff in real time, because when you're playing a video game, you need to be able to turn your cursor to the right and the entire world needs to be able to render in and change dynamically based on what you're doing. And it's completely changed the creative landscape too, because you're more precious about your moves when you have to wait for stuff to render. You have to, it's kind of a pain in the ass to make a mistake and then have to go unwrap it. You're disincentivized from taking chances and taking risks. So I even look at um, the kids who are making visuals right now, who are of the next generation, who grew up making their stuff in video game engines, as having a completely different and in some ways more free, like artistic vision of what they can do with video. But and so I think there's something about um, millennials and Gen Z who just grew up so natively with video content that um, it was just like a kind of fluency in the space. I think what I don't think ties as much to the age of the collaborators I've worked with is there's incredible artists and directors um, from every generation. Like I feel like video directing and cutting cameras and having a real intuitive sense of how to do that um, is something that you can't substitute experience, and being able to get to know a band too, to be able to improvise along with them. I think that's something that you have to learn on the road. You have to learn by doing it, and so by virtue of that, the best people doing it are people who are legends and are seniors in the space. Um, and I think same with a lot of the stage designers and lighting designers who are able to see new technical opportunities as creative opportunities, but who still have the benefit of not being constrained by what they've seen in the past, and see it as a or like continually growing their idea of what's possible in the space.
That's a fair answer. Yeah, it's a complex answer, I guess, but it obviously, with each generation there's good and bad,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But it's nice to hear you recognize the that, yeah, you have to look at both sides of the story. But I do see a trend, so with folks like yourself, that I find, having conversations with younger and younger people who have more responsibility on the road than perhaps they once would have had in a different
Yep.
department in that same age. So I think for me, that's interesting to see.
Yeah, and I think there's drawbacks to it too. People who don't like the best designers I've worked with are people who have a level of understanding of everyone's piece in the puzzle, who like know something about lighting design, know something about achievability um in load-ins and set pieces, and actually like making the show happen. And that uh I've seen the opposite too, where someone might have great artistic vision but be younger and never have worked on shows, and they end up gumming up the process by having no idea of what's realistic, what's a big ask versus an easy thing to fix. Um, and it ends up like throwing a wrench in the gears, because people start to resent, who is this person at the top? It seems like they have like their edicts and their directions are being trickled down to the bottom level, and someone has to be like, dude, this is a completely unreasonable request to make at this point in the process. And I think that's like a big drawback of as amazing as the
So you're not a fan of like the Betamax camera following you around and doing some tricks with? I think I've seen that recently, but we won't talk about
yeah,
that.
yep.
But no, I think it's a valid point as well. Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, because there's a level of arrogance if people haven't done the work. You know, as we all talk about, like earlier with the white gloves, you got to earn that. You don't just show up. And sometimes, when they are younger and they have these abilities, they do tend to kind of skip some of the hard-working process. And you do need that wiser, older production manager or somebody coming in saying, "Yeah, breaks."
Yeah, and just
but people have to listen to
yeah,
that.
and appreciating sort of what people are doing on a day-to-day basis. If you had a little taste of doing it yourself, then you don't take it for granted, the load-in processes or what it means to go back to a piece of video content and re-render it with a color change. It might seem like a simple thing to do from a creative standpoint, but if you've done it yourself, you're kind of aware of what you're asking someone else to do. And I was also just thinking, like, some of the best advice I've gotten in the um like in my entire touring career has, like, it's almost exclusively come from people with years of experience, not from someone who just is an incredible creative but came on the scene in the last couple of years. um like I probably learned more from people who've been doing it for a while, like by orders of magnitude, than people who might be super talented but are fresher and greener and have less depth of experience.
So I think
That's also interesting. Do you think you going to university makes a difference in your approach as well?
um The not a whole bunch. I mean, and I say that because I've met people from all walks of life and found that there's not a super strong correlation between their, like, level of higher education and their competency in the field. I think, like, the best thing I got from it was um, like, verbiage around what I like, describing art and describing, like, having a some common language with people who have worked um, in the fields of art. um, and just, like, I think, like, a lot. I had a double major, and half of it was music and focused in jazz, and that was, an experience you can get through outside of the walls of university too. But I think one of the great parts of these institutions is they bring together a lot of really intelligent people and a lot of experts in their fields, and I learned a lot just, like, going to school in New York with and having classes where really it was just shooting the shit about the philosophies uh, behind some of the great jazz that we loved. And I was surprised at how much that actually had a bearing on, like, when it came to designing a show and improvising along to a band, and, like, what the priorities were. Being able to have a shared language there, I think, is super valuable. But I certainly wouldn't consider it a prerequisite for being talented in the space.
I just wanted to point out that I believe the word Ian was referring to and Dallas while talking about the old and the new. It's actually Kyle Hamilton's favorite word. What is that word, motherfucker?
The old and the new, the balance.
The balance. There it is. I also want to go back to Chris Lee for a minute. I apologize for ruining his train of thought. It sounded like he was on the verge of something revolutionary, and I want to give him a chance to go back on record with whatever that was.
Oh no, I'm good. I'm good. This is a topic we'll talk about offline.
There it is. Well,
Now my interest is seriously piqued.
mine is too, but I'm also starting to think as we reach the hour marker in today's podcast that we've barely scratched the surface on the amount that we could be talking about. And Ian, I do think that we should be doing this again, and you should join us. Uh, I probably would have encouraged you to be a part of this from the beginning, but when we started up this podcast, you and I had a conversation I specifically remember when you told me you'd never been busier. And the only thought that crossed my mind at that point was this motherfucker. How the fuck is he busier than ever while the rest of us are sitting home on our ass doing not a fucking thing?
Yeah, no complaints. It's been, I think you touched upon a lot of it is people trying to figure out how to translate music into video. Um is has like never been more at the top of people's minds. But this hour flew by. I would love to come back and dig deeper into this stuff.
Was it even an hour?
We
What happened?
just hit the 1 hour marker literally as you asked that question.
Wow.
And there it is. So I'm going to suggest we wind down for today. I do want to continue this conversation. I think there's a lot more that we could say about it. Um, but before we go, Ian, I thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you. We do have some standard questions we ask all of our guests. I think you answered a few of them already. Your first tour was, of course, Ed's Dead. Your
Yep.
favorite was, of course, being on the road with us. Artists notwithstanding, who gives a fuck? Your best moment was probably seeing Banks in his terry cloth robe. Although I
What's up,
would like to
Ian?
give you the opportunity to share one other. Although if you could clearly say there has been nothing that came close, and I would believe you. But please let us know what comes close.
Yeah, God, that is a high bar. Um, I think we were all there for that 2017 damn Coachella. That was one that like I think we were all so deep in those rehearsals that by the time that show started, it kind of smacked me in the face of like realizing what a moment that was, and certainly looking at the past 3 years um and the shows we've done since then, and then Kendrick's career. But someone just sent me some videos from that 2017 Coachella headline set, and reminded me what a moment that was. That and the other one that came to mind was, as we were talking, was the Full Flex Express tour. You guys ever hear about this tour when Skrillex and Diplo took a train across Canada?
Yeah, you did that, didn't you?
I did, and that was there were some moments on that tour that like just in the context of these conversations were so goofy. Like I always used to think about if I fell off that train in the middle of Manitoba or wherever we were, and like because the doors were like wide open, and there's like a whole train car just dedicated to like a music studio and like a CDJ setup, and I was like, someone easily could have just tumbled out of that train car and found a cabin in the middle of Saskatchewan or something and trying to explain. It was like, no, I was on a train with Skrillex and Diplo, and just having someone be like, ah, sure you were, buddy. Sure, okay, yeah, absolutely. We'll get you right back on that train. Like I think that was one of the more surreal tour moments, and one of the only things that could even hold a candle to seeing Banks in his terry cloth.
It was a pretty impressive Canadian accent too. Could you do that a little more?
Ah, yeah, sure. Hey, listen. If yeah, I'm not a dog and pony show here, okay? If you want to get me to do more accents, you can frig off and we can talk about it offline, okay? But you can't come at me at 60 kilometers an hour like Joel Otto of the Calgary Flames, okay? It's not
Yeah,
what we're here to do.
you kind of veered into the Irish in that last one.
Or Ireland.
Definitely Dublin. Yeah, but where are you?
Fell apart.
Oh,
Oh,
I should have had
love it.
one of Banks's tequila sunrises.
Oh, you
That
need
usually
that. You
helps.
need that.
Or several. Well, there it is. So, Ian, before we wrap, two more things. One, any additional wisdom you want to impart on our listeners without giving away the secrets of the world and how we are going to dominate, please let us know.
You know, one of the best pieces of advice I got, I was thinking this, Christine, when you were asking me about stuff I've learned from people who've been in this industry a lot longer than I have, is the super gifted stage designer Ez Devlin, who we worked with on the weekend. I remember there was we've all probably experienced some version of this, but we'd created some video content according to a deck. We debuted it. We were looking at it at rehearsals along to the music, and it wasn't working. And I remember as turning and saying like, this isn't really working. Like this doesn't work. And I remember immediately getting defensive and being like, I wanted to pull up the deck PDF that we'd like sketched out exactly what we were going to do for this song, and like justify the fact that I hadn't fucked up and hadn't made a mistake, and like no, look, like we did exactly what we said we were going to do. Like this was according to and I remember she cut me off and was like, yeah, like cool, no one's blaming you. Like but you agree it doesn't work, right? Like we're looking at it now, like who cares whose idea it was? Like it doesn't work right now, right? And I looked at it, I was like, no, it doesn't. She's like, great. So why don't we just skip this whole section and move on to fixing it? And that like stayed with me so much through all of my like creative and technical and like business interactions with people. It's like just let the blame go and like move on to fixing it. And I think you'll have much more productive and personable relationships with people.
I like that. Impressive. So, shout outs, parting shots. What do you got?
Psh, dude, man, the people I want to shout out are on this podcast right now.
West Coast.
West Malibu High over here. Chris Lee,
Terry cloth.
Christine. I was just thinking, Christine, about our what was the diamond ball? You guys remember that?
Which one?
Whichever the one that Kendrick played at.
Oh yeah. That was, what was that? A couple years ago,
Yep.
I think. 3 years ago.
Cipriani's on Wall Street.
Oh yeah, might have been our first year at Cipriani's, wasn't it?
That was my first and last, but that was
okay. I feel like I've been there a few times since then. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean that was like, you know, you get the people on this call have absolutely made my touring experiences what they are. You know, I think we've all worked with a couple of the same people too. I mean, I definitely want to shout out my my Strangeloop team, and so much of the stuff that I took credit for, as Matt was rightly pointing out, was me taking notes and then sending an email and then presenting whatever I got in return as if it was my own. And so you can't underestimate the impact of the teams working remotely to make something like video especially happen when there's only so much you can do in the moment.
Would that fall under the category of Gestalt?
Let's lump it in there. Let's just make Gestalt a catch-all for the for the next show too.
I still don't know what it means, but that's okay.
You've had an hour and 6 minutes to Google it, man.
I did, and I'm still confused. It's okay. I'm just going to leave that alone. Ian, MF, I love you. I appreciate you. You've been awesome. We've had fun today. I definitely want to keep doing this with you, with everybody, Kyle, Chris, Dallas. Today's been fun. I literally have tears in my eyes still from the initial terry cloth robe conversation, and that will carry me through the day. I know people at home are like, what the fuck is he talking about? Why is that funny? It just is.
Wait, that's got to be the picture. That's got to be the picture associated with this one. We got to get Chris. We need you to do it.
I think it's going to be our title. I don't know why, but it's like terry cloth robes with Ian Simon. I don't know what's going to make anybody want to click and listen for that, but I do. I don't know. We'll figure that out or not. But thank you. It's been fun. What are your socials so our listeners know?
I'm at on Instagram at Blount _BLUOUNT, and then we're just Strangeloop Studios on most things. Yeah, we got some cool stuff coming up. So let's find another time to do this again.
Can't wait for that. We are HLUB Podcast on Instagram. As always, you can email us. You can, of course, DM us there. You can email us at info@hustlelikeyouBroke.com. Today has been fun. I'm going to go get me a Dr. McGillicuddy or several, and we'll see you guys the next time. Thank you, and